Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and I don't suck, and neither does the Piffles podcast. But anyone who plays the Riders, they suck. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. It's a feeling now. Get 'em high, get 'em low, 'cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got, 'cause we're ready.
I don't care how many times I hear that. The Johnny McKeag band, that gets me fired up to do a podcast. This is the Piffles podcast, your Saskatchewan Rough Riders fan podcast. Thanks for joining us this week. As you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, my name is Alex.
I'm Steve.
Et je suis grand en Montréal.
I saw that. You are big in Montreal. You made it. You finally made it.
I finally made the Montreal Journal over the dumbest thing on the planet, but hey, I will gladly edit JR and the King into any stupid CFL clip I can if I keep on making the Montreal Journal.
Yes, please always do that. Of course, Piffles podcast brought to you by our great friends on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Check them out. You can find us on Twitter at PifflesPod. You can give me a follow at RealAlexD.
You can find me at Safamod.
And as always, I need nor want your pity follows at Greg on Sports.
He needs them.
You need them?
Oh, don't need. Jeez. And see, this is what YouTube has done to me. I have become a media whore.
You are a changed man.
I don't.
You heard
I hate
it, guys.
myself right now. I hate myself.
He needs the pity follows. He needs them all. So make sure you give Greg all the pity follows.
I'm unfollowing you now.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. It might be a bye week for the Riders, but there's a lot to talk about. Let's get to the opening kickoff. All right, so let's talk about the Riders. Big double overtime win, 29-26 over the Stampeders from last weekend. We're coming up on Canada Day, so that just kind of reminds me of the Canada Day opener in 2010 against Montreal, where you can just breathe after that game. An absolutely wild game, and that was just the first quarter, which was the wildest first quarter I think I've ever seen in my life. Ultimately, the Riders pulled away, ended up winning. But let's start talking about that game here. In that first quarter, I made some talking points here we can hit on, and it starts with Jamal Morrow, and he started that game hot. And to me right now, with all the injuries that the team has, especially on offense, that's the key to getting this team going. If you get Jamal Morrow going, this team's going to be in good hands.
We honestly spent the last offseason preaching about how we're going to finally see a running game, and the running game is going to be the most important part of this offense. We finally saw it. They came out of the gates running the ball. They ended the game running the ball. Great game plan all around, but you need to get the ball in Morrow's hands. End of question.
I really enjoy what I'm seeing out of Morrow, especially in the fourth quarter. Like, he is getting yards after contact. Like, a lot of those plays in that fourth quarter, he was hitting the backfield and he just kept moving his legs and got big chunks of yardage at a time. That is what you need, especially when you're going to close a game. He was like kind of like bringing in a closing pitcher. Like, he was just eating up the game, trying to get the team out of it to hang on to that. Well, trying to hang on to a win, but
well, we're going to talk about that last drive in just a couple minutes. But let's get back to the first quarter. Amari Henderson, fumble recovery on a kickoff, taps the ball out of bounds. Everybody saw it. Landed in bounds. His toe hit in bounds. The refs call it right away that he was in bounds. Called it a turnover, Riders ball. But the way that it was described made it sound like he was out of bounds first when he landed. And to me, I think that's dumb in the first place. If you start in bounds and you hit the ball, it doesn't matter where you land because you played in bounds. You played the ball in bounds. And ultimately, that's what it should be. Evidently, the CFL disagrees with that and they have their rule changed. But that was an absolute blown call. and it took CFL Command, their operations Twitter account, 45 minutes to actually explain what happened, and we never got an explanation during the game. And you had
even
Glenn
explained it
Suter.
right.
Well, and Glenn Suter had no idea what was going on. He doesn't know the rules. And it was Dustin Nielsen, or no, it was Rod Smith, I think, doing the game with him. And they had no idea what was going on. And when you have that happening, like when you're watching at home, it was just one of those WTF things. Like, what was going on? And we never got an explanation. And to me, that's the part that kind of bothers me, is we don't get anything. And it took forever for the CFL to announce something after. But what is your guys' thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, former Rider media guy Ryan Pollock actually kind of explained the call on Twitter, or what the rules as he understood them back when he was still with the team. Apparently, the CFL adjusted that rule for the onside kicks, so guys couldn't just jump up and bat the ball out of bounds, basically jump towards the sideline and knock it out of bounds. Basically, stating the same rules as a receiver. If you're going to play the ball, you must land at least with 1 foot in bounds. Obviously, Henderson did that. Problem is, the command center was obviously looking at his hand and not the full clip when he hit the ball with his feet on the ground. And it was a blown call, and I doubt we're ever going to get them to say they made a mistake.
Here's the problem I have most with that play. Even if they missed the toe tap just after he touches the ball, which was clear as day, you see the pellets flying up from the ground. Simple call. Clearly they missed that when they were doing the review. The call on the field was fumble Saskatchewan's ball. And there's no way you can tell me, looking at that clip, that the hand and knee was clear enough that his hand touched first. So even if they got the botched call part right, I don't even think they got the second part right. The whole purpose of the review system is to make sure you get it clear. And they don't seem to have that down pat. And we're having a problem with this time after time when it comes to the challenge system. And they seem to be inserting themselves more and more as the season goes along. And that's a concern if they're not getting these calls right or overturning the obvious call.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to agree with you on the eye in the sky definitely seems to be more of a factor. I don't know if I'm just noticing it more, but there's definitely a lot more. The refs coming back going, the command center says this, which means the eye in the sky is definitely becoming more of a factor in the games. I do have to disagree with you, though. His hand definitely did touch before his knee, so it doesn't matter. His feet were in bounds when he hit the ball, so it shouldn't make a difference anyway. But the fact remains is they saw him hit the ball, and they just watched his hand the entire way, and it hit the ground before the ball did, before his knee did.
Forgetting any of the other limbs on his body exist.
Exactly. Basically, he's just torsoing up. That's all Henderson is.
And I was listening to the post-game show with Daniela Ponticelli, and she actually went over some of the things that the league is allowed to review now. And it took her several minutes to read through this list of things on air, going through all the different things they can review, when they can review if it was a call or uncalled, if they can do it without help. And I think we've gotten to a point now where the review system is going almost too far. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to have human error. But these constant reviews are going to do nothing but extend the game and honestly bore new fans.
I didn't realize we had Daryl Davis on.
I was just going to say, I'll sound like Daryl Davis. Just get rid of video review altogether.
I believe review has a time and place. I fully agree with the coaches' challenges. I agree that there should be an eye on the sky correcting stuff in real time, but it needs to be like this. Like, it needs to be fast. It needs to be efficient. And lately, or mainly this season, it feels like these reviews are taking longer and longer and holding up the game. My problem, though, with the officiating / command center, there was 2 flags that were thrown and picked up with no explanation why the flag was thrown and why it was picked up.
See, I don't mind them picking up the flag, but I would just want an explanation and be
Well,
like,
that's
no,
exactly
there
it.
was
Like,
no
I don't-
holding on the play or whatever they were going to call.
Explain why you threw the flag. Like, flag was thrown for holding. Command center says it wasn't. That's fine. Do that. But just go, there was no infraction.
Then why is
you
there
throw
a flag?
the flag? Yeah. What
The
did
laundry
you see
on the
that
field
command
suggests
center?
otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a Tom Valesi game, so we all know how those games seem to go with flags and going against the Riders, right? Yep. Okay, well let's jump here to the Riders taking the lead. Roland Milligan getting the interception, fumbling the ball with the perfect bounce right back into his arms and took it down to the 1 yard line. They originally called it a touchdown. Video review, put it back on the one. Then Shea Patterson got a touchdown right after. But to me, that was the best bounce the Riders have ever gotten with a football in the last 10 years, going back to the 2013 Grey Cup when Darian Durant got hit and the ball went straight up in the air. Felt like it was there forever.
It was.
Corey Sheets comes down with it and
40
scampers
yards
40 yards. So, I mean, the football gods were shining down on the Riders on Saturday night there.
I don't know.
You should have known they were following us after that Jake Winicky fumble recovery for a first down on the sack from Trevor Harris. It just seemed like after 30 years of nonstop everything bouncing against us, this is one of those games where things just worked in our favor and in the most hilarious ways possible. And Greg, I have to give you credit for your Yakety Sacks video. I've watched that way more times than I should honestly admit on air. I don't want to, inflate your ego any more than it already is. But that was hilarious.
Pity follows now, so we're already across the Rubicon. I'm looking for pity follows at this point. Well, you can't watch that play and not hear the Benny Hill music in your head. All I do is speed it up and add the actual soundtrack to it. I guess the good news is I'm not a 14-year-old kid, so the league hasn't pulled it down yet. But
they have their own issues with stats and whatnot
with their own technology,
and we will talk about that in a little bit because I'm PO'd about that. So ended up being 6-3 at the half. Or what was it? Is that what it was? I had that written down. It's not.
It was a low scoring affair the first half.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, that first half was just. The first quarter was wild, wacky, and then the second quarter it kind of leveled down and ended up being just kind of a boring quarter, at least in comparison. And then the second half, back and forth. We got to see our boom and bust Nick Marshall. He got beat by Malik Henry for a 51-yard touchdown. What a move from Henry, putting the moves on CJ Rivas. Honestly, not much Rivas could have done there with the way momentum was going with his body. But it was Nick Marshall trying to undercut the pass and didn't get it and got beat. But we saw the Booms play later on at the end of overtime, getting the interception. But we've been saying this for years. That's what you get with Nick Marshall. You're going to get those big plays going up against him. And with Jaden Dalkey out, and you had Nelson Lacombo go out in the first series, CJ Rivas was playing in safety. So, I mean, if you're going to exploit anything, you're probably going to try to exploit the middle of the field. That's what the Stamps did on that play and ended up getting that touchdown.
Like I tweeted out that night, effing Nick Marshall is a universal phrase. It's both great when he does something great, and also just completely, you can use it when he gets blown away for a big play like that. Live by the sword, die by the sword. And that's why he's here. He's going to make those big plays, but for every big play he makes for you, he's going to get beat just gross. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday. Usually you don't get those in the same game, but
that's why you put up with it from him, is because you're going to get that bounce back play in return. For every one of those mistakes, he seems to come back in a big moment and make something happen. Not many bigger moments than a game-sealing double overtime interception, but that's what you're going to get with him. We've seen him long enough. We know what we're going to get from Nick Marshall. Great cover guy. Just
I like that still of Steve. Let's keep that.
Yeah, so do I. And the worst part is we're doing video, so it's just gonna be fun to edit out. Oh well. But no, but to kind of finish the point with Nick Marshall, that play was, oh my god, this is amazing.
I can't look
That
at the screen. I gotta hide
that
that.
I can pull him out if I really wanted to. I guess I'm going to leave it though. That play was so unexpected. The CFL Pick'em had that game ended in a tie, 29-29, for at least 24 hours.
Yeah, that's the CFL's website for you. Again, more on the CFL's website in a little bit. I want to get to the receivers. Sean Bain having another big game. Tevin Jones having a big game. But when Sean Bain took that pass for 60-yard gain, set up the touchdown, Riders go up by 10. 2-point convert. Play call on that was ridiculous because you're throwing it short of the end zone when you only need to go 2 yards anyway. Just awful play call. What do you do there, Greg? Do you go for the single point when Brett Lothar hasn't really been consistent this year, missing kicks every single game, make an 11-point game, or do you go for 2 to try to make it a 2-touchdown game instead of, a touchdown and a field goal?
I made my opinion very clear on Twitter. I truly believe that the 11-point game was the better play. Everyone was like, well, no, this way they need 2 touchdowns. I'm like, you missed. They only need a touchdown and a field goal to tie. And hashtag Greg was right. But
shirt out yet?
It's going to hit the shop tonight. I swear it's going to have to happen at this point. But like, that's why I wanted that point. Like, yeah, like, sure, it's a 2-point conversion and a field goal. Yeah, all they needed was a field goal with a regular conversion and a touchdown with a regular conversion and a field goal to tie, and that's exactly what happened. So make it harder on them. It's harder to get a 2-point conversion. Make them work for it. Paradis right now is the most consistent kicker in the league. So make them, and you had Mayer there, make him throw a touchdown and make him try to get a 2-point. To me, it just made sense to try to kick it. And worst case scenario, Lothar misses. We're back in the same boat than we were when we missed the 2-point. But once again, if they would have got it, everyone's like, oh, that'd be a brilliant play. But I think in that situation, they should have just kicked the convert.
I'm with you. They should have kicked the convert. But at the same time, when you look at what Craig Dickinson's done through 3 games so far, he has been way more aggressive in these 3 games than he's been in his entire tenure as head coach of the Riders. And to me, that shows that I don't want to say he's afraid of losing his job, but he's doing everything he can to try and keep his job. And that includes, like, we saw this team get outcoached by other coaches and themselves. They've outcoached themselves in losses last year. And I think this is Craig trying to, I guess, learn from that and go from there.
Agreed. But he almost outcoached himself again. Like, that was like, and that's, I also put that on Twitter. I'm like, this is he overcoached himself. That was like deep coaching brain. And when it would just made more sense to kick the field goal, go up by 11 and force them to get the 2-point. And instead they missed it. And then, chaos ensued.
Okay. So now after that big long drive, when it's a 3-point game, the Riders are 3rd and a long 1 yard. It wasn't just
1.5. It was 1.5.
That was pretty close to 2. Came up short. Ball got turned over. Calgary got the ball, and I knew that was going to happen. Once they were short, I'm like, "That's it. We're going to overtime."
We also got to talk about the review on that one because that was wild as well.
Move the ball up and still be a yard short, and I don't know how you can't tell. You need to get to the 7-yard line.
We got to make fun of him as he comes back in.
All right.
This is great radio. So for the podcast people that don't realize this, Steve dropped out, and now we're going to add him back in, and we're going to make fun of him. Hi, IT
Steve.
guy. wait till you see the video.
What happened there?
Yeah, the freeze, the face you made on the freeze was amazing. We just left it up until it dropped out.
Excellent stuff.
Fantastic. An excuse to watch the YouTube video.
We're talking about when the Riders going for it there on a yard and a half at the end of the game.
Yeah, so they come up short. I like the idea of going for it there and ending the game. You get
Agreed.
the first down.
100%.
game's over.
100%.
And again, that goes back
Wrong
to my
play
point.
call.
Craig Dickinson trying to, be more aggressive, right? But at that point, again, I personally probably kick the field goal because then you're forcing them to get a touchdown here. Brett Lothar probably isn't missing from 15 yards. 3rd and 1.5. What are you guys doing in that situation? I'm kicking the field goal.
And see, this is where you and I reverse. I thought that he made the wrong play on the convert. I think he made the right decision here. Because if they would have got it, it would have been fine. I think the play call was wrong. Like, Morrow was churning at that point. So take it out of shotgun, give it to Morrow. He would have got you those 2 yards. It made no sense to me.
This hurts, but I'm going to agree with Greg.
Yeah, that shirt's definitely coming out tonight.
Getting that shirt, yeah.
The obvious choice was a handoff to Morrow. He got hit in the backfield how many times on that drive and turned them into 6 and 7 yard runs. The guy was a guaranteed 4 yards. 3rd and 1 or under 1, sure, you go with the sneak, but 3rd and almost 2, you're asking for exactly what happened. And down 3, we all knew damn well they were going to march down the field and kick the field goal. 100%. There's no other way that ends. I've been a Rider fan all my life. We know how that movie ends. The only difference is the sequel apparently ended in a victory.
And the thing is, though, the worst part is Calgary had the wind at their back. Like, Paradis is not known for his distance. He's known to be accurate. That wind at his back helped him out. So they should have ended the game when they could, and yeah, they just made the wrong play call.
So again, ultimately, we go to overtime, trade field goals. Riders get their field goal in the second overtime. Nick Marshall gets that interception. Poor ball thrown by Jake Mayer. And again, that showed me this guy is not the guy because he had probably 10 yards in front of him. He could have ran for the first down and kept the drive going. Awful throw. Good for the Riders, absolutely. Nick Marshall kind of bailing out himself, dropping 2 interceptions earlier in the game, getting that big one at the end, bailing out his kicker. Lothar missing a field goal and an extra point, so 4 points there, which would have been enough to win in regulation. And
thank God, though, for Korsak.
We haven't talked about Adam Korsak yet this year. This guy,
oh my Lord.
Kari Vedvik's not getting his job back. This is Adam Korsak's job. He's been unbelievable.
The only way Vedvik's hitting the field is if somehow they can sneak him on, like they can put him as like a linebacker on special teams so he can go hold kicks. Because at that point, Lothar has no excuses. Because I'm sick of hearing Korsak can't hold the ball. And that's Lothar's problem. But yeah, Vedvik is not kicking the ball anymore. Between the weird Aussie rules and just booming the ball, yeah, Korsak's the punter here on out.
You don't lose your job anytime soon after booting a 90-yard single. You just don't. And an absolute beauty of a kick. I loved hearing comments of, were they planning for the single there? As if you ever planned for a 70-yard punt, but they did. And he did. And it was delightful to watch.
And how important did that point end up being to the process of the game, right? So yeah, this guy's great. Riders win the game, move to 2-1. One of those, again, like I said, it was back and forth. You can just kind of breathe the sigh of relief, especially going into a bye week with all the injuries this team has. And of course, more big ones throughout this game as well. None bigger than Gerald Hawkins, starting left tackle. Quad injury, torn, we don't know. He's going to be out for a while. I was concerned about giving this guy game reps without having any preseason snaps and anything. This guy hasn't played in 3 years. So I was questioning his conditioning. Now, of course, he got rolled up on, so that doesn't really have anything to do with it. But it's just, they can't catch a break, especially on the O-line here now with left tackle. So in this game, Logan Ferland actually kicked out to left tackle. Evan Johnson moved from right guard to left guard. Logan Bandy was the sixth man. He came into right guard. I actually thought Logan Ferland played pretty well at left tackle. Like, I don't want to say he was an all-star by any means, but he didn't really look out of place. And Calgary has a pretty decent front four. So I was actually pretty impressed with that.
Well, tackle is Ferland's natural position. That's what he played at the Thunder. and played it well as the CJFL lineman of the year and the PFC lineman of the year. Like he played tackle. Moving him into guard was a pro decision because usually you want those big Americans out on the tackles anyway. I think if they can develop him, he could be your Philip Blake. Like that means you can bring another Canadian in at guard, which if they can't find a tackle, that might be the way they go. If Fry's ready to step up at guard. Or even as a 6 and move Bandy at guard.
You legit can't sing Logan Ferland praises enough anymore. I know Greg's been touting him since we basically signed him. We've heard everybody that can be associated with the O-line position give him props, and all of a sudden he moves out to tackle and looks fairly solid out there. This guy's the future of this O-line. There's no question anymore. He is the guy that you pin your offensive line on, assuming he sticks up in the CFL for his career. It's got to be in green and white.
So my natural assumption is that Brandon Council is going to get into left tackle. He started the first couple games there, and you're going to see Logan Ferland kick back to guard and Bandy being the 6th man again. Colin Kelly probably going to likely stay on that right side just so they're not moving too many bodies around. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen next week against Edmonton when they come back from the bye week. But this bye week, like I said, couldn't come at a better time. Nelson Lacombo, another depth injury there, starting at safety, only lasted. That was the first drive, wasn't it?
First play.
Ended up getting hurt. And I mean, if Jaden Dahlke's on the 6-game list, hopefully he's not out for the full 6 games, but you're juggling the roster there by putting CJ Rivas in there. And it's just special teams. Again, Nelson Lacombo's a special teams guy. You're getting just absolutely killed. So I sure hope Jeremy O'Day is on the phone this entire bye week and trying to find, especially when it's Canadians getting hurt. It's not like all the good Canadian football players are just sitting there waiting for a phone call. They're on rosters. So hopefully we'll see some depth signings coming into next week when they hit the practice field again. But it's just injuries, and it looked worse than it ended up being. CJ Rivas ended up getting hurt, got taken out for concussion protocol. Sam Emelis at the end of the first half. Roland Milligan went down in the fourth quarter, so did Micah Tights. And they all ended up returning, but I don't know what it is. This team is just getting decimated by injuries right now.
Well, today on the CFL transactions page, when I was kind of poking around, the Bombers quietly released Tanner Schmeckel, U of R and Regina Thunder product. Maybe they didn't even put him on the practice roster, which kind of has me scratching my head. So I don't know if they outright released him or they're trying to quietly put him on the practice roster. But if you're looking for Canadian depth, he's a strong lineman and a Canadian kid, or D lineman, I should say, and a Regina boy. So that might be where you look if you need depth on, especially for special teams.
Legit, Jeremy O'Day needs to call anybody with a Canadian passport and football experience, see what they've got out there, because our depth, especially at the Canadian position, has gotten decimated
Hammered.
3 weeks into the season. And that's where you succeed the most in the CFL. If you don't have that Canadian quality, you're not going anywhere. And the more they take those hits, the worse it's going to get. So we need to get something. We need to right that ship quick. And like we've said, the bye week could not have come at a better time. Get healthy. Hopefully you get some of those guys back and you roll with it.
Now, I'm curious if one of the phone calls that Jeremy O'Day is making is for a kicker. Brett Lothar has missed a kick in every single game this year. He's second in overall field goals made, and I think he's tied for second in total points scored. So is kicking a lot of field goals, but with a miss in the first game, a miss in this game, those are 2 games that the Riders won that they very easily could have lost. And those 3 points would have been massive in both games. What do you do with Brett Lothar here?
I think you got to bring someone in to push him. Obviously, David Soley wasn't the answer from out of the U of S. I know I'm very partial to Eric Maximowik, who was the leading kicker of the CJFL last year, Regina Thunder, kicking 52-yard field goals with ice in his veins. How he never got a look, I don't understand, but I get there's a lot of politics with drafting guys and signing guys and whatever. A junior kicker too, but they need to bring in somebody at this point because I don't think Lothar's lost it, but I'm starting to get concerned because I was bugging Bomber fans that I know about Legio last year for obvious reasons, and I'm getting he's not Legio yet, but I'm getting vibes.
You know, you're right. I don't think Brett Lothar has lost it at this point, but he definitely is having trouble finding it. It's kind of disappointing to see the continuation of his struggles week by week. 4 points off the board on uh, Saturday night. Sorry, that's the difference between overtime and a win in regulation. Yeah, we pulled it out, but these aren't points that we can leave off the board. And normally I'm not going to give a guy hell for missing a 51-yard kick. That's a 50-50 shot for most guys. But when you combine it with the missed convert and a miss in every single game, that's a lot of points off the board. And this is a team that's going to win a lot of tight football games. You need those points. You cannot be leaving points on the board, especially if you get into games against Winnipeg, against BC, now maybe even Montreal, Toronto. There's a lot of quality teams this year. You leave those points on the board and you're running into trouble. We are lucky we were up against Jake Mayer.
I've gone from going, it's a 53-yarder, just trot Lothar out there, we're fine. Why are we punting it? To, oh my God, it's an extra point. What happens if we miss it? That's not a fun feeling. And I trust the guy. I think he can get back there, but right now it's not fun.
Now, a lot of that has to be saying he has a new placeholder with Adam Korsak this year, with Kari Vedvik being hurt.
Do they not practice?
Right? Like how much does that have to do with it versus what's in between the ears, right? Like to me, this is a mental thing with Brett Lothar. I don't think if you bring somebody in, somebody's going to take his job from him. I don't believe that. But I don't know. Like it's just, even going back to last year, once he became the team rep for the Players Association, he's got more and more on his plate now outside of the game. Is it taking away that focus on the game, and this is where we're seeing the misses, or do you just blame it on having a new holder?
I'm so tired of hearing, oh, he's got a new holder. We're 3 games in. It's all Korsak was doing during the preseason as well. Like, at some point, it's not the holder. This is not laces out Dan. Like, Korsak's not Ray Finkel. Like, at what point does Lothar actually make it? Like, I don't get it.
They have to bring somebody in. There's no question anymore. You can't keep going on the way it is. You can't leave it status quo. But you give Brett Lothar time to right his ship. But you have to have the guy looking over his shoulder, because if you go into another game where he's missing a kick and a convert, then you're up against BC. You can't leave those points out there. You're running very close to needing that guy behind him, and you got to bring him in now. You got to do it. You got a bye week. There's no better time to bring in a couple guys and see what they got than there is right now.
Because don't get me wrong, I'm not worried about him against the Elks, but then we had to Stampeders again, Lions, Argos, Red Blacks, no one cares, Alouettes, and then we're basically into Labor Day. Like we got 2 games coming up where those field goals might be very, very important. And so I hope this bye week gets his head on straight, because I'm starting to get worried.
Are you worried about Craig Dickinson? Fans are starting to get more and more antsy around Craig Dickinson. I've made my speeches about Craig Dickinson before. I've said in this episode a little bit earlier on that I think he's being a little bit more aggressive this year to try and, save his job going into a contract year. But a lot of people are calling for him even though the team's winning games right now. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. If you're winning, your coach is not going to get fired. That's just the way it is, okay? But I'm curious what you guys are thinking about that really quick here before we move on.
I stand by he's Ken Miller order on Wish. I like the guy. I think he's a good coach. I'm a little concerned about the nice guy routine. It only works for few. It seems like he's got a little more of a tighter grip on the team this year. He's got to come out with a winning record, and I don't know. Like I don't know where I'm at with him this year. He does that smoke and mirrors with Trevor Harris, but then basically he's the magician that tells you exactly how the trick is done after he's done. So, oh yeah, we know the entire time. Well, now no one's going to believe anything that comes out of your mouth when it comes to injury reports. So I'm not sure where I'm at with Craig Dickinson right now, because like I said, he made a good call and a bad call in my mind. Do I think he needs to be fired over it? No, but I think it's 4 years in, and I still don't know what I think about Craig Dickinson as a head coach. That probably should worry me more than anything. But then again, you got Chris Jones getting head coaching job after head coaching job, and like at least 3 out of 4 years his teams suck. So, and he still gets head coaching jobs and GM jobs, and it makes no sense to me.
When you look at a guy like Craig Dickinson, it almost goes week to week on how I feel about him. If you would have asked me last week in the game against Winnipeg, some of the questionable challenge decisions, things like that, I would have been calling for his job. Then you have weeks like this where he really, to me, made most of the right calls. I think the go for 2 was the right call. I think, was it Alex? I was gone for that part. Was it Alex that agreed with that? I think that was the right decision. And I think the go for it on 3rd down was the right decision. He's making better decisions, but there's still questions on whether he knows that he's allowed to use his challenge outside of overtime. It seems like those are glued into his pocket, and it's getting worrisome that he doesn't take that chance. And he's come out and said, I'm only going to do it if I know it's correct. And I get that, and I respect that, but on the same sense, they're there to use. Even if it's a 50-50 shot, take the shot. It could help your team.
Okay, here's the problem, though.
Craig,
go ahead. Sorry, finish your point. Then
I think what Craig Dickinson needs almost is a guy in the press box looking down, helping him with those minute by minute game decisions. He can call a great game. He's got the team rallied around. Discipline has been much improved this year. Now, I don't know if that's because they got rid of some head cases, Duke Williams. But
Garrett
honestly, it's vastly improved. But those minute-to-minute game decisions and the clock management, it seems to be where he struggles the most. And you get a guy in from the press box that knows the CFL game inside and out. That's what you need to have somebody in his ear passing those things on, going, hey, this would be a good time for a timeout. Or, hey, you might want to challenge that. Because it seems like he's missing that.
But going back to the entire challenge things, both Dickinson brothers made wasted challenges in that overtime.
Awful.
But one thing I got to respect about Craig Dickinson, and he said out front, he's going to do his best not to do a timeout in the first half, and he's going to do his best not to throw his challenge flag in the first half. And if that's what you're going to do, and that's what you're going to stand by, unless it's absolutely egregious, fine. I trust you on that. But that both Dickinson's doing those terrible fishing expeditions. If they would have turned over that Jake Mayer roughing the passer, I would have broke my TV. I literally would have threw something through it.
I was kind of waiting for that to get overturned, actually. There was no way that was roughing the passer, but I was kind of waiting for it to be called that way.
If they would have called it, I don't like the best thing is like he rushed Mayer and just like gave him a tap on the chest. Yeah, good play. And then Mayer's like, throw the flag. He hit me in the neck. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That may have been one of the worst challenges I think I've ever seen in the CFL. And I'm here for it. I want to see more ridiculous things like that. Have some fun.
And then until Craig threw his flag on that other one. That was just as bad.
Steve, by the way, the only person that's allowed to say "let's have some fun" on this show is Ray Algard. So please,
Sorry,
leave that to the experts. Thank you very much.
we
Was
can't
that
do that
season
anymore.
one?
We're on a video
Season
podcast
one?
now.
Yeah. Beginning.
Wow, imagine that. That
Yeah.
that interview was season one.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine doing that one on video.
Yeah, that wouldn't have ended very well. All right. Well, that's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Feshton of Royal LePage Regina Realty. Let's jump to our Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. And let's start with the rider news. $5 beers at the stadium. Not the good
I
one,
missed this.
of course.
I did not realize this until I saw our Google Doc.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's what?
So,
Will they still take the rider tokens? I think I still have some.
ooh, I know I have some. Let's have one somewhere. I know I kept one from the last game at Taylor Field.
I want to add them and ask if they will take the tokens. If they really want to do 90s night, they better take the tokens.
So it's for the whole party in the park. So 3 hours before the game. It's sponsored by a gross beer. So don't.
Yeah, they're not Churchill.
But anyway,
Blonde, by the way, blonde tonight.
Same.
More, very good choice.
$5 beers in the party in the park, and then inside the stadium from when the doors open, which is an hour and a half before kickoff, all the way up until kickoff. We've seen this, and I think Hamilton does it, Ottawa does it. I don't know if any other teams do it. I'm sure that I'm missing some. I think actually BC might do that as well, or did it once anyway. Massive success. And to me, this is a no-brainer, right? Like, I mean, on a $5 can of beer, you're still making a ridiculous margin of profit, okay? And what this does is you're going to get people drinking these, and then for them to spend $10 or $12 on a craft beer like Churchill in the stadium, they're going to do it. And they're going to buy more concessions, and they're going to possibly buy a shirt or a jersey or something. They're going to be willing to spend more money because they had cheaper beer. So
here's the issue, though. It's on a Thursday night game. They aren't going to be losing a lot of profit on it. I don't see people going nuts on $5 beers on a Thursday night.
You don't think so?
Have you been to Saskatchewan?
Okay, in my section, the guys that go the hardest are from out of town. I doubt they're going to be at the Thursday night game. Just saying.
We'll see. I think with the summer here, people taking Fridays off to have long weekends every single week, I don't think that'll be an issue. And with it being, a Thursday and people still working on Thursday, taking that Friday off, people in town, we'll see a lot of people partaking in those $5 beers. But good on the Riders for finally doing something like that, jumping back into what other teams are doing as well too. And again, it goes to kind of what Craig Reynolds and the organization is doing. It seems like they're listening to fans a little bit more this year and doing stuff more fan friendly, at least to have them, a better experience in the stands. So if this gets, more people spending money inside the stadium when kickoff is, once the kickoff starts, and they're people that weren't going to buy, a burger and fries or whatever. Now, because they've had a couple drinks, they're going to go buy a burger and fries. Even better for the Riders. So, I mean,
need the carbs.
That's right. So, I mean, good on them for finally doing that. We'll see how it goes. I still don't think, Greg, that you won't see people going hard. You'll see people going hard.
I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying it would be better on a Friday night, Saturday night game. That's all I'm saying. Thursday night, seems like it's typically Thursday night games, especially in Regina, are usually where you see a lot of empty seats, even in the summer. So I'm very curious. But then again, we're coming off a bye week. It's not a long weekend, so maybe people aren't going to be heading out to the lake that on a Thursday night.
We'll see. Let's talk about some of the other stories around the CFL from this past week. BC dominating Winnipeg at IG Field last week, 30-6. BC is clearly the best team in the league right now, right? Like, they're the class of the league, right?
I've never been happier to lose money in my life. I had a 4-game parlay and it was shot game one of that week. Yeah, like BC looks really good. I'm happy Vernon Adams finally has a place where he can shine. The guy is a great dude and a great football player, and I'm glad someone is finally giving him a shot, because the fact that it's taken this long with him in the league this long is a joke.
Can we just talk about that defense? They gave up 15 points in week 1 and 6 points since. They've been absolutely on fire. Now, in fairness, the second game was against Edmonton. Shutout. Still impressive, but it's Edmonton. But they gave up no touchdowns to a solid Winnipeg offense. So as good as that offense is, it's their defense to me that makes them formidable going down the stretch. They are going to be tough to beat. I don't want to play them. I would rather play Winnipeg, and we haven't beaten Winnipeg in 4 years.
I don't know, but the thing is, so with Winnipeg didn't look right that game, and I don't know if it was because the defense is that good or just Winnipeg was just, they weren't on brand for them the way they've been the last 3 years. They just weren't connecting. They weren't making plays. I just don't know if they were befuddled or they just had a bad night because of a short week or something. It just didn't look good.
What about the Alouettes? Do you guys believe in them? 2-0.
No.
Cody Fajardo looks like he's the 2019 Cody Fajardo, which was the West Division MOP. Is it time to take the Alouettes seriously? Because I think it is. I think their defense is playing pretty well. Yeah, they've only beaten Ottawa and Hamilton, but guess what? That's who they have to stay ahead of in the East. That's literally it. And they get a home playoff game.
You play whoever's in front of you, but I don't believe in them because they've played Hamilton and they've played Ottawa. They haven't played anyone that anyone's going, hey, X is a very good team. They haven't played anyone who's a good team yet, which I don't want to say that about Hamilton because I thought they were going to win the East this year, but they obviously, there's a problem they can't figure out, and Ottawa's just bad. Like, they're bad. And they're not getting Mazzoli back anytime soon either. So it's not good.
To me, it's exactly like Christina Costabile said with the CFL. They've played, come talk to me when they've played a real team. Do they look for real? I mean, sure, they've beaten the teams that have been put in front of them, but I don't imagine anybody would have much trouble beating Hamilton and Ottawa right now. It's how they're winning, though. They're winning. They're running away with it. They're not questionable games. They're not difficult wins. They are putting that effort out there. I'm just not ready to anoint them the class of the East quite yet.
Well, I'm not saying they're the class of the East, but for sure they're the second best team clearly right now in the East. And I don't care. Who cares if they don't beat the Riders? Who cares if they don't beat BC or Winnipeg? They don't have to beat them. Beat Edmonton, beat the Stampeders. And if you beat Ottawa and Edmonton, that's all you have to do. And then it's playoffs, and then anything can happen. You're playing a crossover team who we know is not going to get to the Grey Cup because it's never happened before, and it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, especially when that fourth place team is going to be the Calgary Stampeders. And then you get to an East final in Toronto any given Saturday with playoff games on Saturday this year. But like, it's a one-game thing. Anything can happen. And if Cody Fajardo's on, I mean, he's been making some really good throws. Their O-line still is pretty suspect to me, and that's going to hold them back with the amount of sacks that Cody's taking. But it seems like he's back to that 2019. It looks like he's having fun again. And that was what was missing in 2021 and 2022 here in Saskatchewan. I know 2021, they still got to the West final, but it looks like he's back to that MOP type player. And he's found a new friend in Austin Mack, who's put up some really good games.
Still a value pick on fantasy. I can't believe it. Like my team this week, I got to the end of it. I'm like, I still have 13,000. So I went back and upped a few guys.
I'd go look at what his stats are, but CFL.ca doesn't believe in putting stats up on their website. So I couldn't tell you how good he is. But actually, speaking of Austin Mack, he gets shoved at the end of that game by Chris Edwards, got the
By
maximum
God, that guy
fine.
go to hell. By God, by God.
Is it time to just cut bait with him if you're Hamilton?
Well, I'm glad they find him the maximum the CFL can find somebody.
Well, like 500
Uh,
bucks.
yeah, I was gonna say his game check can't be that much. Um, this guy, I don't get it. Like, I'm not saying he should be kicked out of the league. Like, there's a bunch of people that went extra on that, saying they should give him the Gary Marino treatment. He's not that bad yet, guys. That said, what he did was completely classless. That is like old school wrestling. Here, let me shake your hand and then punch you in the face. It'd be one thing if he went to just push Mac to the ground, but the fact he led with his hand like as a handshake and basically did psych and knocked him over, like, come on.
And Orlando Steinauer says that's not the team we are. Orlando, guess what? Yes, that is. That is the team you are. When you have
You
guys
signed
doing
him.
that, that's exactly what it is, right? I hate when
That guy-
I hate when coaches say that. That's not who we are. Yes, it is. That's exactly who you are, which is fine. But
here's my issue for Orlando saying that. Orlando's been with the Ticats for how many years? A while.
a lot. Yes.
The fact remains. So he was there when that guy was fighting the Ticat fans at BMO. So don't tell me, oh, this is a shock. This is not what we thought. You knew who you signed. It was like when the Riders signed DA. We knew who we were getting. It just blows my mind when the guy's like, that's not who we are. Yeah, you are who you sign, and when you have a guy with a history like that, you know who you sign. That's who you are.
Even if it's a one-off situation, like going into the crowd with the fans, that's a level you don't cross ever. You don't get into it with fans. You don't, and it's not the only time he's been involved with issues around fans. He was flipping off fans at a game before. You know exactly who he was the moment you signed him. He was literally doing it to your fans. Like, you had a front row seat to his shenanigans. And then to turn around and sign him, own that. Accept that you have picked up this guy who's going to be the guy that's in everybody's head. Because you need a guy like that sometimes. You need a guy that the other team is looking out for. But you don't need a guy who's sitting there willing to cross those lines. And he did it again this past weekend. The handshake, pull back, and shove, that's a line you just don't cross again. And he seems to be willing to not just cross that line, but like kick the door down and run past it. And the fact that the league looked at a repeat offender and said, we're just going to fine him and let it be, to me is questionable. I think what he did should have been suspension worthy. It's dirty, and you need to set that precedent right off the bat. And they didn't.
See what
They should have
actually
given him two. They should have given him 2 games, and it probably would have been appealed to 1.
Yeah, kind of like his 6-game suspension for punching fans, which was brought down to, what was that brought down to? 3, 2 or 3?
3, 2 or 3.
But what gets me about this past week wasn't so much that as Kyle Loxley quitting on your team, quits on the Elks, obviously got cut after that by Chris Jones, goes into a game. Really curious as to why Taylor Cornelius got pulled in the first place. He was playing his best game of the year. He actually didn't look that bad against the Argos. It was a 1-point game at the half. And then you bring in Kyle Loxley, fumbled the handoff to Kevin Brown. I mean, you can debate all day whose issue that was, but Kyle Loxley goes and pouts on the sidelines and was asked to go back in for, I think, a 3rd and short after the next series, and basically said no and stayed over 25 yards away from the rest of the team. Right there, that tells me, get out of here. You clearly don't want to be here. You don't quit on your team like that. Yes, I get it. You're upset that you fumbled the ball and that you got pulled right away. You didn't get a second chance. I get that. As a competitor, you never want that to happen to you. But as a teammate, as a man, you have to be there for everybody else. And if coach tells you, hey, go back in, even if you don't want to, you still do it because that's your job. And you're helping out 45 other guys on the field. When you don't do that, you deserve to get cut. So if I'm another team, I don't care if the talent's there or not. I'm not looking to sign him. I don't care about depth at that point. This guy's going to quit on me. I don't want him.
One thing it taught me though is Chris Jones is in my mind, a better GM than Jeremy O'Day, because O'Day should have cut Mertiel when he did the Olay, because to me that's the exact same thing. He gave up on an obvious play and then just quit on the team. But I don't know. It was an easy cut. Like the fact that you go in for the short yardage and you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. Sorry, dude. That's what you get paid to do. You get paid to play football. The minute you want to stop playing football, you don't get paid to play football. And I don't know. Here's the thing. You are a quarterback who just got cut from one of the worst football teams in the league. Who's going to sign you? Winnipeg just cut a very good quarterback to bring Dakota Prukop back. So, like, Pig Rome's probably going to end up somewhere. So what is the market for a guy that quits on his team? I don't think it's there.
Could you imagine going into work tomorrow, your boss says, hey, can you do X job? And you just, nope.
I'll try it tomorrow and
think
let
that
you know
would
how it
go
goes.
well. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to assume we'll hear very quickly because you'll be fired. That's just a big no-no in any position, but in a team sport, you let your entire team down. I can't see anybody holding out a paycheck his way anytime soon. He's going to have to look down south or USFL, XFL, something like that, where they maybe didn't see the the third and short. I don't want to go in play because I don't think it's going to be happening in the CFL.
Here's the problem. All it takes is a quick Google search and they'll find it. Like, he is now, like, we're talking scarlet letter type stuff. He is stamped with that forever.
And that's something that lasts with you for your career. You give up on your team, you give up on a play. I mean, Junior Murtaugh made many, I think, decent plays in green and white. Couldn't tell you because the only thing he'll ever be remembered for was letting the
Olay.
guy walk by. Yeah, like that's when you do something like that, it's forever.
So now Edmonton's rolling with Jarrett Daggy, brother of Seth Daggy, former Rider quarterback, against Ottawa. So it's Jarrett Daggy against Tyree Adams. Big time, marquee matchup there. Edmonton has to win that. We'll get to our picks in a little bit. We'll talk about that. But Edmonton, do they maybe go for a Dane Evans? Do you make that call if you're Chris Jones, or try and sign Tyrell Pigrome from Winnipeg who got released? Like, what do you do if you're Edmonton at quarterback? Because clearly Chris Jones has no faith in Taylor Cornelius, and that was after the best game that he played.
Well, a big CFL insider said that the Elks are looking to bring in Dane Evans. And I trust him with everything he has to say, because he was right about Bo Levi Mitchell being the starting quarterback of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Oh, anyway, if you're the Elks, you got to do something. At this point, you got to do anything. And yeah, maybe they actually are going for Dane Evans, which, if I was
You have
Dane
to
Evans,
make that call. You have to at least call
You
them.
have to. But if I'm BC going, all right, yeah, no. Like, what are you going to give me?
Yeah, I want 4 first-round picks.
Good luck.
That ain't going to happen.
No, I think you got to roll the dice on Pigrome. They brought back Khalil Tate.
Yep.
So he's familiar with the system. Maybe he's the guy. Daggy didn't look bad. He looked a little chaotic, which might be okay for the Elks. But problem is, they just lost Geno Lewis put him on the 6th game. So this is the problem with what Jones did. He tried to bring in receivers to make Cornelius look good. And like I said last week, he is the white Michael Bishop. Good arm, good legs, but when he throws a ball, every ball is a 50-50 ball because you don't know where it's landing. I don't know what they do from here. Like they got to do something. And until Trey Ford is healthy, I think they just kind of got to ride it out.
You know, Chris Jones made his bed with Cornelius, and now he's being forced to lie in it. I mean, we knew from week one that he wasn't the guy. I don't know what Chris Jones has seen in him. When he runs the ball, he's fine, but as soon as a team contains him, he's got nothing. And everybody knows that now, and everybody's going to force him to beat you with his arms, and he's not going to be able to. You know, you need to start looking at other options. Daggy looked fine, you know, not as good as his brother. Seth was fantastic. Obviously,
Stuff is terrible.
you know, Plaza of Honor inductee. No,
Did you own a jersey? Did you own a jersey I'm not aware of?
I did not. I did not. No, I was never on the Daggy train. He did have an awesome name, but that's about it.
Well,
A good name for memes.
Jared got killed in that one play. Like, he balled out to make that touchdown play. And that probably got him starting gig this week.
And it reminded me a lot of the time that Seth Daggy ended up upside down on the sidelines, getting flipped over. Who was it that was in the background of that picture with the greatest face in a sports picture ever? I wish the people listening on audio could see the face.
Yeah. You two people got the reference. Audio people, sorry.
You're on your own. But I don't feel even the slightest bit bad for Chris Jones and the Edmonton Elks. They made this choice, and we all knew it was going to go horribly, and here they are. And if I'm BC, there ain't a thing that you can offer me that would make me make that trade, because you're one hit away from being, in a world of hurt. Right now they've probably got the best 1-2 punch in the CFL. Why would you give that up to help a division rival?
And here's the thing, BC, because they knew Dane Evans was probably not going to be their starting quarterback, got him on a very team-friendly deal. So why would you definitely move that? There's no reason to.
They have absolutely no logical reason to make that trade. None. And if they do, honestly, I would question everything about that organization. If you're going to move him, you move him out east. You don't move him to a division rival who you could, likely won't, I mean, you will not end up facing in the playoffs, but why help a rival? Period. I think they're going to be stuck rolling with what they got.
Ottawa. If Dane Evans ends up anywhere, it's Ottawa. That's it. That's the only spot he's leaving for.
All right, maybe Hamilton. They're needing a starting quarterback.
Oh, can you imagine?
One more quarterback thing we have to get to really quick, guys. Chad Kelly. Dave Naylor called him the most important player in the CFL.
Swag Kelly.
Sorry, Swag Kelly. From the six, SIX, I think it's called, or spelled with the six. Dave Naylor called him the most important player in the CFL. I agree 100% with him on this. I don't think he's the best player, and people were equating important with best, and that's wrong. He is not the best player in this league. It's not even close. He's not even close to that. But he is the most important player because he's the Toronto Argonauts quarterback right now. And they've had kind of a tough time trying to find the next quarterback after Ricky Ray. And they finally found something with McLeod Bethel-Thompson. He leaves down to the USFL. But when you have a team that you need to market, you have a big personality like Chad Kelly and the following that he has, especially in the States, obviously being the nephew of Jim Kelly, right next door in Buffalo, right? Like, you're getting people that might want to go see him just crossing the border really quick. If you can make this guy a star, if he turns out to be a good quarterback, doesn't necessarily have to be a great quarterback, but if he's a good quarterback and the Argos are winning, and let's say they win a championship with him, this guy is a mega star, which is exactly what the CFL needs. They need to be able to market this. And that's what makes him so important, because if he flat out fails, like a lot of people want him to, then that's disaster for the CFL, because this is supposed to be their Brock Lesnar, their next big thing. This is supposed to be the guy that takes, the league to the next level with eyes. So in that sense, he is the most important player in this league. Do you guys agree with that?
As a guy that played devil's advocate on that, you can't market a guy who's been very open about wanting to leave the CFL. How do you market a guy who's basically said this is a pit stop on my route to the NFL? I mean, yes, that's basically every CFL player, and that is the dream. Very few people grow up dreaming of playing in the CFL anymore. But this is a guy that has said it on every podcast he can find his voice on. That's the problem to me. Yes, this season he is the most important person probably in the CFL. I would agree with that. But I have issues marketing a guy who wants to leave. And you want to make this guy the megastar. How do you do that and still keep him around for the years to come that you want him to be? You're just going to have Toronto back in the same position next year looking for the next guy because Chad Kelly's down south somewhere riding his Grey Cup win to an NFL contract.
Join us next week when we have Chad Kelly on. But seriously though, as a guy that once declared Duron Carter as the face of the league, which I get hammered for by a buddy of mine like every year, you need those personalities. And yes, Chad Kelly has that personality. And yes, Chad Kelly wants to go to the NFL. I'm a little concerned about anointing him this early because what has he done besides break Bomber fans' hearts, which makes me a giant fan of his. But Steve's not wrong. He goes on everywhere, every podcast, anywhere he can raise his voice about the CFL. He just talks about how he can't wait to leave it, how his contract sucks. So if you want to market around the guy, sure, he might get some looks, but at the same time, he needs to also say the right things, and he's saying the opposite anytime he has a chance. That being said, the personality is out there and gets clicks. So I don't know where the balance is. Do you want the Nathan Rourke's going, I just want to be the BC Lions quarterback. That's what I want to do. When he'd rather be third string of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Or do you want the guy being honest going, yeah, I'm the starting quarterback of the Toronto Argonauts, but I can't wait to sit on the bench in the NFL because that's going to give me the most money. What do you do?
I'd rather have the guy who doesn't chase that audio everywhere he can do it to badmouth the league and then turn around and try and market him. Because how do you market a guy like that? How do you market that to the States if that's your plan? You want to build that Buffalo market. You want to build the Toronto market. How do you build that around a guy who's crapping on his deal and crapping on the CFL as often as he can? That's the struggle there. He should be, and with his personality can be, a great media personality and somebody that this league can market. But he needs somebody there coaching him, teaching him, hey, maybe don't say that. Promote the CFL. Send it some love. You're going to get fans. You're going to get noticed. Say the right things. Do the right things. It's going to help you down south. Find that coach. Find that guy that can whisper in his ear, telling him to shut up.
All right. Well, we got 3 games this week, Canada Day weekend. And to me, that's a fail, only having 3 games. I get it for the long weekend. People are leaving. They're going to the lake. So it makes sense to only have the 3 games. But one of the games is on the Monday. So you have a Friday game, a Saturday game, nothing on the Sunday, and then the Monday game. I think if you're going to celebrate Canada Day, the Canadiana that is the CFL, maybe, I don't know, doubleheader on Canada Day, do something there. Have people I know people want to go outside and enjoy the festivities and whatnot, but still, you're not getting that great of ratings right now on the 4 games in 4 days. I don't know why you wouldn't want to just have 2 games on Canada Day, but I don't know. Is that just something that I'm making too much of? I feel like there should be more to it, because just 3 games on Canada Day weekend just doesn't seem like enough to me.
I got a question for you too. What is the best game that was ever on Canada Day?
Well, that's the 2010 season opener, of course.
And that was the season opener. And it was a doubleheader. So
Nobody
you guys
remembers
remember
the second game.
Yeah, I was going to say, does anyone remember the second game?
It was probably a BC home game.
Nope, it was Calgary and Toronto.
Oh,
Who won?
oh, that was Toronto won that, didn't they?
Nope.
No,
Calgary won 30 home win for Calgary 30-16.
Oh.
But yeah, it's kind of hard to follow 105 points. I agree with you. Saturday should be a doubleheader. Like, why even have the Monday game? Technically speaking, some people don't have the Monday off. Like, that's the weird thing about the Canada Day on a Saturday is some businesses are doing the holiday on the Friday and some are doing it on the Monday. So why we're having a Monday game, I don't know. Do your Friday night football, doubleheader on Saturday, and then if all you're doing is 3 games, that's all you're doing, or have a game on Saturday. This is a weird week to have a bye week. I don't know why they did the bye week this week.
Absolute mistake by the CFL. No question there. You want to promote the Canadian part of the Canadian Football League? Make this weekend all about Canada. You got to have a game in Ottawa, have a game in Saskatchewan. You know, you're going to have the fans show up. You know, get those big markets involved and make it a big deal. Canada Day weekend in the CFL should be a spectacle every single year. And for it to be a 3-game week with a game on Monday is honestly a terrible choice. And they should be disappointed in themselves.
Honestly, this is the week where you should do your touchdown Atlantic. So you go Halifax, Moncton, Wolfville, whatever, Ottawa, Vancouver, coast to coast, national capital. That's if you're doing 3 games. If you're doing 4th, yeah, you throw one in the prairies. Go to sea to shining sea on Canada Day weekend. That is what they should.
I like that. That's a really good idea. That's what they should do. Absolutely.
Hashtag Greg was
Never
right.
thought about that. Yeah, I've never thought about touchdown Atlantic on Canada Day weekend. That would be smart. So we'll never see it.
CFL, reach me at Greg on Sports. We can talk some marketing ideas. Lucas, hi. Talk to me later.
And give Greg that pity follow that he wants. So we just talked about the failure of only 3 games. Speaking of failures, and I wish we had more time for this, Genius Sports and CFL partnership with the stats. Now, I personally don't do CFL fantasy football. It doesn't do much for me. But earlier today, I was looking up. I wanted to see where the Riders were in receiving each individual player. I went to CFL.ca. They have a PDF available that showed immediately the top 4 receivers or top 5 receivers. And that was it. And Sean Bain was on there. I think he's 4th or 5th. I wanted to see just the Riders. I only wanted to see them and just how close they were with Bain, Tevin Jones, and MLS after the last couple of weeks. I wanted to see how they were. There is not a way you can do that in 2023. Riderville doesn't have that because they get theirs from the CFL.ca. Genius Sports and this whole stats thing that's been going on. We're in week 4 right now. And if you go to CFL.ca/stats, which every pro league, NHL.com/stats, MLB.com/stats, NFL.com/stats, if you go there, you will find everything you need and you can sort it pretty much any way you want to, by team, by conference, whatever. You can figure it all out. It's pretty simple stuff. The CFL doesn't even have CFL.ca/stats working right now. And it's just embarrassing that in 2023, all they do is send out a PDF on a Monday, which you have to dig around to find on their website to see who the league leaders are in every category.
They didn't have league leaders in defensive. They didn't have league leaders in defensive stats till 2 days ago. You could not find who the sack leader was until like late Monday. This is ridiculous. And the worst part is Ambrosi trying to paint it with a brush, going, "It's not a failure." Randy, I don't know what your definition of failure is, but this is it.
He has to say that though, right?
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
He does not. It looks worse. If he would just go, yeah, we made a mistake. We're trying to fix it as soon as possible. He'd get a lot less flack. Going out there going, this is totally the Naked Gun gift going, nothing to see here, folks. There's nothing behind it while the building is burning behind him and exploding as people are being launched overhead. Admit your mistake.
But you don't do that with a partnership
and move on.
You don't throw them under the bus, even though it is their fault. I agree with you that it would look better PR-wise for the league to just say, yeah, we screwed up. Us in Genius Sports, we haven't got it right yet, and we're going to work towards getting that correct as soon as possible. I get that. That's fine. But you just can't in corporate partnership do that.
If this is a true partnership, then Genius needs to put someone in front of a friggin' microphone.
I agree. Yes, 100%.
And if I'm the CFL, I'm going, hey guys, you need someone up there with Randy because Randy's just dying right now. So throw a life preserver or something because he's drowning. And meanwhile, Genius is sitting behind and going, yeah, we're fine. Randy's got it. Randy don't got it, man. Randy ain't got it. So
what makes this the most embarrassing is the league has made a clear push that they're trying to get sports betting and they're trying to get the gambling side of football like every other pro sports league. Do you think any legitimate gambler is going to look at the CFL, look at their stat situation and go, man, I can't wait to put money on that? There is no information for them to go off of to give them that edge. There's nothing out there at all. So they're looking at it from two different sides, and they're managing to mess both of them up.
There's no way in hell I'm putting money on CFL yardage or mainly yardage. There's no way I'm doing a prop bet on a receiver's yardage when they're just yanking away stats after the game. It's garbage. It is the worst I've ever seen.
It's embarrassing.
What's truly bad is if you...
Sorry. Okay, you know how MLS lost 20 yards last week? Did you hear why?
Nope.
Because Genius was counting the depth of the end zone.
Audio can't hear this, but Steve and I are both blinking.
That is why MLS went from a 100-yard receiver to a 70-yard receiver. Is because both of his catches, because he got 3 touchdowns, and all of his catches in the end zone, they counted the yardage in the end zone, and then realized, oh crap, we can't do that, and then wiped it out.
So what you're saying is the name Genius is just ironic, and that's what they built their entire platform on.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
What's whole extra bad? If you look at their fantasy side of things too, that's a complete cluster F too. If you're in a league,
has to be
you can't see who your opponents are.
Has to be a chance one in the weekly.
Right. But if you look at it, you can't see who your opponents have. You can't see anything going on at all. You can barely sort through players. Week 2, they had Vernon Adams projected to get 4.3 points. The starting quarterback of a solid offense was projected to get 4.3 points, and Dane Evans was projected to get 15. These guys have no idea what they're doing, and it's making the league look bad at every different angle they're involved in. It's embarrassing, and it's getting worse week over week because nothing's being done.
I hope something changes because it's pathetic. It's just bad. So hopefully they're listening and they get their act together because it's just, yeah. All right. Well, we got 3 games to pick from this week. Are you going to play the guessing game again, Greg? Make me guess the spreads.
I'll pull those up right now.
All right. Well, the first game, Edmonton at Ottawa. 2 awful teams, both starting their 3rd or 4th string quarterbacks, depending on injury situation. just guys, I don't want to watch this game like at all.
I this is going to be a tire fire, but all right. So Elks at Red Blacks. Where do you think the line is, boys?
Ottawa minus 1.5.
Steve?
Let's say minus 2.5.
Ottawa?
You know what?
Steve is
I'm going to go
correct.
Edmonton. Oh, shit. I mean, whoop.
Oh no! Oh, I'm not editing that out. I'm sorry. God damn it, Steve. Ottawa started at 2.5. I'm not even looking at the adjusted numbers. I'm just looking at the originals.
But I don't even care what the score is. I'm taking the under.
The
I don't care if the over-under is 10.
It's 42.5.
Oh yeah, under.
So I will be taking let's face it, the losers are whoever's watching this game. But seriously, I like the Elks to win this because as bad as the Elks are at home, Ottawa is just as bad.
Yeah, I'm going with Edmonton.
It's Ottawa at home. You take Edmonton.
Yeah.
And we'll do the reverse on the other game.
There you go.
All right, second game, Winnipeg at Montreal. Just as we all expected, one of these teams going into this undefeated, that's Cody Fajardo and the Alouettes. My guess is Winnipeg by 4.5.
Steve?
Go 6.5.
Steve, are you Googling this? It's actually minus 6.
Damn.
Bombers minus 6. The over-under is set at 48.5.
That one I might take the over.
I think it's going over, and actually it looks like the money is definitely being put on the over. I still like the Bombers in this one. I don't trust the Alouettes yet.
Cody Fajardo can't. Yeah, Cody Fajardo can't beat the Bombers, and I mean, when's the last time Winnipeg lost 2 regular season games in a row? Like it's been a long time, and that wake up call that they got from BC last week. Someone, I forget who it was, tweeted out, Coach O'Shea must actually be excited for this week because he actually gets to coach. And
I think that was my favorite Tuck Rule fan, Jamie Nye.
Yeah, he actually gets to coach this week instead of just being like, yeah, let's just keep doing what we're doing because it's working. Clearly it's not. At least it wasn't against BC. So yeah, I can't see Winnipeg coming into this one flat. They'll win by a touchdown for sure.
The only thing that's going to stop them is the St. Catharines, the flu.
St. Catherine flu.
Yeah.
May have had that once or twice in my life. And the last game, BC at Toronto. Really good game on paper here on Monday.
What do you think?
BC minus 3.
Steve?
Yeah. 3.5.
2.5. Over under is at 47.5.
I take the under just because of BC's defense.
Yeah, they have me torn. Although Chad Kelly's looked pretty good the last couple weeks.
You know what's funny? Apparently the over is getting hammered right now.
I wonder which Argo is going to get the hat trick and touchdowns. Week 1, it was Chad Kelly. Last week, it was AJ Ouellette, who might be my favorite player in the league right now.
I took Ouellette again on. I had Ouellette on fantasy last week, and I have him on fantasy this week again.
Yeah,
still a value pick. Like,
and he's got the mullet too. Like, I mean, come on, this guy he might be my favorite CFL player since Bear Woods. And anybody who knows,
the guy
once again, a Toronto player. You and Toronto players.
I'm not wearing my Toronto hat this time, though. I'll wear that next time. BC.
I like BC too. I think this is where the Argos actually get punched in the face.
Yeah, Toronto's going to move again, not on a bye week this time, but it's going to be BC, and I don't think it's going to be that close. BC, until they lose, you got to prove me wrong.
So since the Riders are on a bye week, that means they're going to be third next week, right?
You know, it's going to be really nice if Winnipeg loses to Montreal, or you know what? No matter who wins that game, the Riders and Hamilton can move up. And then the winner of Edmonton and Ottawa can move. I've got it all set out already. There's going to be somebody moving on their bye week every week.
And I'll be angry. And I'll be angry.
Every week. Yeah.
All right.
And of course,
and
Steve,
I'll still be right.
your Piffles or your power rankings on pifflespodcast.com. Again, go there. Lots of stuff going up all week long. Pifflespodcast.com. All right, well, guys, I got to head off to bed here because I got an earlier morning flight. I'm heading out to Calgary for the Blink 182 concert. So I guess
it ain't so.
I will go.
To the rock show?
Yes. Damn it. Another reference there for you guys as well. Piffles Podcast brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Special thanks, of course, go to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty and Churchill Brewing Company for their support making this show possible. As we leave you, as always, this is Tyler Gilbert with Ghost Behind Your Mind.